Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports. And on today's show, we are breaking down 10 players in the NBA that I believe can win the NBA MVP award this upcoming season. I am Nic Rohloff. Let's dive into today's show. But before we do that, I actually have to get a pulse of all you guys. Excited for the NBA to be back. Preseason's going on as we speak. Regular season is just about 2 weeks away. If you're excited for the NBA to be back, show me by liking today's video. All right, we jump into number 10 on my list, and that is Mr. Anthony Edwards. And this is a name that I expect to be a household name, if it isn't already, by the end of the season. The shooting guard out of Georgia, the former number 1 overall pick, has gotten better in every season he's been in the league thus far, and I expect the Timberwolves to be fighting for a playoff spot in that 7-8 seed range in the Western Conference this season. And I think Edwards is going to take a massive jump in his scoring total. He's going to be someone to me that averages 27, 28 points per game this season. And if he's doing that, I think he'll be in the MVP consideration. Do I think he will win it? Probably not, just because the Timberwolves are simply not going to be good enough to have an MVP winner, but Mr. Anthony Edwards is going to be someone that flashes this upcoming year. Number 9 is LeBron James, the king, if you will. He's number 9 on my list because, listen, it's LeBron. He's always going to have that notoriety. He's always going to be in that conversation. He's the second best player of all time. Maybe he's the GOAT in your opinion, but I think he's going to be able to perform this year. But one thing that is going to set him back for the MVP award this season is, remember the new rule they just placed in, Adam Silver, where you have to play a certain number of games to qualify for all NBA, all defense, and all these awards. I don't know if LeBron's going to be able to play the 64, 60-plus games required to win the MVP award. Listen, he's 39. He's old. I don't know if he's going to be able to play those games, but say he plays 70, 72 games this season, he will absolutely be in the MVP conversation. Number 8 is the Slim Reaper, KD, Kevin Durant, Durantula. Which one did he hate, Smitty? Did he hate the Slim Reaper nickname? He hated some nickname. I like KD, but I don't know why you would hate the Slim Reaper nickname, by the way. That is a really cool nickname, in my opinion. But anyway, now full season with the Phoenix Suns. Is he going to be able to get to that status, lead them to the MVP in NBA Finals that they want to go? The only problem that I have with Kevin Durant is that his teammate Devin Booker might steal some of those MVP votes away. I don't think either of them will be able to win the MVP because they're on the same team taking votes from each other. But Kevin Durant, if he's able to have a 30-point-per-game season and the Suns are a top 2 team in the Western Conference, KD can absolutely win the MVP. Number 7 is the chef, Stephen Curry. He's going to be in that conversation every single year. We know that. The best three-point shooter of all time, a trendsetter, one of the most generationally players inside our league. He really changed how the game is playing, right? He's 34 now. He's getting older and older. If the Warriors are able to continue to be good this year, I think Curry will be in the mix, but I don't know if he's in that top 5 upper echelon type players in our MVP ladder before the season begins. That can change, but I just don't see how he's going to be a top 3, top 4 guy going into this season. Number 6, someone who people think that he could be the next MVP is Jayson Tatum. The problem with Tatum that I have winning MVP this year is not so much the talent, not so much the player, not so much the team in where they're going to finish in the East. It's actually that they have so many good players on that roster. You think of Jaylen Brown, you think of Kristaps Porzingis, you think of Jrue Holiday now. I just think the MVP voters are going to look at that and say, well, a lot of players on this list that you're going to see today could do the same exact thing if their next 3 best players were Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that hurts Jayson Tatum in the MVP conversation, so that's why he's a little bit lower. I tell you what, though, if the Celtics didn't acquire Jrue Holiday, I think Tatum would have definitely been in my top 5. Just acquiring him just makes that roster almost too loaded to where I think it's going to take a little bit of the shine away from Jayson Tatum. All right, we're going to go into my top 5 for this upcoming year, but I got to ask you guys, Who do you guys think wins MVP this season? Joel Embiid won it last year. Previous 2 years went to Nikola Jokic, the center out of Denver. Let me know who you guys think wins MVP this upcoming season. Number 5 on my list is SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of my favorite players in the league today. I just absolutely love watching him. And I'll say this, the Thunder are absolutely my league pass team this upcoming season. And when you look at what Shai did last season, he was already an MVP caliber player. 31.4 points per game, 5 rebounds, almost 6 assists, while shooting 50+% from the field. The three-point numbers probably have to take a bump up, but he can get to the line. He gets to the line more than anyone. I think he averaged above 10 free throw attempts per game last season. And here's why I think Shai can take that leap to be in the MVP conversation. The Thunder adding Chet Holmgren, second year in the rebuild, or second year with this roster, second year with their coach. I think if they really stay healthy and put it all together, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, they continue to get there with Chet Holmgren, I think this is going to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference. And if they have a good enough record, with SGA putting up those types of numbers, he will absolutely be in the final top 5 MVP ladder when we're talking about this next April. Next on the docket, Luka Doncic comes in at number 4 for me, and there's not much you can say about Luka that hasn't already been said, right? Ever since he's entered the league, he's been a top 10 player in the NBA. He can score it from all angles on the court. He is also just someone who stuffs the stat sheet. 8 assists per night last season, 8.6 rebounds, while shooting 50% from the field. Like SGA, can get that three-point number up. Both of them shoot 34% from the field, but I think the reason why Luka shoots so low from 3 is because he's taking a lot of three-pointers, and his efficiency doesn't quite equal his volume. But after missing the playoffs last season, the Mavericks, this is a big year for them. Kyrie Irving is now his backcourt partner for the entirety of the season rather than just the back half of the year. If they can just be like the Thunder, like I mentioned, and be a top 4, top 5 team in the Western Conference with Luka putting up those numbers, he can absolutely be holding that MVP trophy come April. Before we get into my top 3, got to show some love to our sponsor on today's show, and that is Prize Picks. Go to Prize Picks. I've had so much fun with them since they've joined us here at Chat Sports. They are one of the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports apps on the planet. And instead of playing pros and sharks, you could just pick 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll. And you can pick more than or less than. I went with a nice little 3-pick selection for this upcoming NBA season. I'm taking more than Anthony Edwards points per game. As I mentioned off the top, I think he's going to be someone who averages 28, 29. I'm taking more than Paolo Banchero, 21.8 points per game, because I think in his sophomore campaign, he's going to be very good. And to round out my selections, Bam Adebayo, more than 9.3 rebounds per game. He's never averaged double digits rebounds per night. This is the year he does it. 20 and 10 season loading for Bam in the 305. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for first deposit match up to $100. I'll say it one more time for the people all the way in the back. prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Back to MVPs, and at number 3 is last year's MVP, and that is Joel Embiid. And it's difficult to win back-to-back MVPs in this day and age, right? Like, LeBron should have had way more MVPs than he currently does, but he got voters fatigue. Nikola Jokic probably should have won last year's MVP, but he didn't because I don't think voters wanted to give him 3 straight MVPs. But Embiid was deserving of the MVP last year. Like, it's not a sham, right? But, like, he was deserving. I do think Jokic deserved it more, but 33 points per game and 10 rebounds and a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference is hard to dispute as one of the top players in the league, if not the top player in the league. 1.7 blocks, too. Embiid can do it on both ends. The efficiency is there also for Joel Embiid. My biggest question for Embiid this year is he going to be able to stay healthy? He played 66 games last season, but he's notoriously been a player in our league that can't play that amount of games. And like the question I had with LeBron James, can he really play 60-plus games again to qualify for these awards? That is the biggest question. I don't think he goes back-to-back. It is going to be tough to see if he will. Like, it's not likely that he does go back-to-back, but I don't see a way that Joel Embiid really does get that done because the fatigue, the injury, and the Sixers might just take an overall decline this upcoming year. But I'll ask you guys this. What do you think? Can Joel Embiid win back-to-back MVPs? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I think he can, but I don't think he will. That's my take on the Embiid situation. Number 2 is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I think the league might be scripted for Giannis this year. Not actually, I kid, but acquiring Damian Lillard late here in September, Giannis coming off losing to an 8 seed in the Miami Heat, this might be the year for the Greek Freak to bounce back and claim that second championship. I mean, you look at what Giannis did last year in 63 games played, 31 points per night, 12 rebounds, and 5.7 assists while shooting 55% from the field. Those are lights out numbers, and the Bucks are no doubt going to be one of the top teams in the NBA. And if I had to place my bet on it, they'd be probably the first or second seed in the Eastern Conference without a doubt. Them and Boston will be going back and forth. And the reason why I think Giannis is going to be someone who can win the MVP this year is his defense. When you look at two-way players in our league, I don't think anyone does it better than Giannis. You can think of a guy like Bam Adebayo mentioned in previous shows. You can think of a guy like Jimmy Butler in Miami, 2 Heat guys that embody two-way ability. Kawhi Leonard as well. But when Giannis is locked in defensively and locked in offensively, there is no one in our league like him. He's the second best player in the league, in my opinion, and he comes in at second on my MVP ladder. I don't think there's a surprise for who is number 1 after seeing the rest of the list, and that is Nikola Jokic, the Finals MVP, coming off the Nuggets NBA championship. Nikola Jokic, who I thought should have won MVP last year, as I kind of mentioned earlier with Joel Embiid. I think Jokic's numbers were just simply better, and he had the number 1 team in the Western Conference. I mean, he shot 63% from the field. That is not normal, folks. Look at these numbers. 24.5 points per game, 12 rebounds, 9.8 assists. He was so close to averaging a triple-double while shooting 63% from the field and 38% from 3. There is no one like Nikola Jokic in our league today. And I think going into this year, coming off the NBA championship, the Nuggets are going to be the best team in the West once again. And I think because he puts up similar numbers to the ones you see on screen, they're the number 1 team in the West. I think everyone knows that Jokic should have been the MVP last year after the playoffs. I think he's going to win it this year. But let me look at the Rollies MVP prediction. All that's saying about Nikola Jokic, right? Like, I think he could easily win it this year. But who I'd bet on, I'd actually go Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's got slightly worse odds. He's second on the list for MVP behind Nikola Jokic. So it goes 1 Jokic, 2 Giannis. I'd bet on Giannis just because the value's better. But who I'm picking, let's get weird. I'm not going top shelf. I'm going SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't like to be part of the herd to just pick the top guys. Give me SGA. I think that Thunder team seriously does jump up to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference this year. And if Shai is putting up 30 points per game with 5+ rebounds, 5+ assists a night while shooting 50% from the field, he will absolutely be in that conversation at the end of the year. So why not pick the main man, SGA, the former Kentucky Wildcat? That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for staying out through the entire video. If you're here, make sure you subscribe because we're ramping up our NBA coverage. And if you do want more NBA talk, don't be afraid to follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. I'm talking everything NBA, and I think I'm a pretty good follow, so might as well just go do it, right?